scholars, researchers, our partners for the hub from Sweden and other parts of the world, students, stakeholders, fellow colleagues from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think I want to start by saying that this is a very important activity coming when we are having the University of Nairobi Research Week. All researchers are gathered here, of course, discussing the importance of research in national development. And during the week, we had a holiday in Kenya. And of course, when I was listening to the president talking from Kitui, and as he outlined the national agenda, he pointed a number of things. Food security was big on that agenda. Issues to do with water and irrigation, construction of dams. How do we engage the youth in, productive ventures and create employment? And I was thinking, and I was reflecting on the speech. And as I reflect on the speech, I was thinking of you people who are seated here, the researchers, because you are the people with solutions. Politicians have been developing, putting up very impressive policy documents through and through, but we have not quite hacked it. And from where I sit or where I stand, we have not hacked it because there's a weak link between, research and policy. I was lucky sometimes this year, together with my friend here, Professor Nyangito and Professor Nuanga, to visit another country, which is fast growing, one of the fastest growing countries in the world right now. And our visit was solely focusing on agriculture, how that country is able to feed, the population, big population, able to utilize the land there, they utilize the water resources, utilize, simple technology to enhance agricultural productivity, and even do supplies and export, how they were able to make small industries in the villages, and the farmers are able to, earn better than people who are in the cities. When we came back, and even today when Nyangito sat next to me, why we were laughing, he was telling me, Orindi, have you forgotten what we learned in? We have to do what we learned there. So this particular hub, the thought behind linking research and policy is very critical, because that's where we have not gotten it right. So I want to thank you very much, the conveners of this meeting, for putting, elevating the place of connecting research to what we call action, ensuring that policymakers get research outputs and not only get it, put it into use. We have to put it to use. We must, we must avoid, the mistake, the fatality of restricting science to fabrications and workshops. Of course, we are here to learn, a workshop to disseminate, but we must take deliberate efforts to impact on policymakers, to impact on the community, so that whatever we do here is adopted by the community. I think basically that's why we are here, and my office, we will work with you to support your stakeholder engagement strategy, and also, support you in disseminating the ideas that you generate from the research that will be coming out of it. It was not my day to make a speech, but I felt I should say that because this is the right time to say it. I was asked to invite my good friend, Director of Research, where he's sitting. He's in charge of the whole, strategic area of making university be relevant and impactful through research, not only here in Kenya, but also globally. So Professor Juku, I want to invite you just to give us what you think about research, not only at the University of Nairobi, what you think about this hub, what you think about research for Kenya and the global community, and what you have for the researchers that are here, sitting here. Thank you very much. Welcome, and make your remarks.
Thank you, John, Director Corporate Affairs. I do not have a prepared speech. I'm attending very many of these conferences, so if I was to prepare speeches, I think I probably spend 3-4 days to prepare them. So I'll just cover a few points. This week, we are hosting more than 18 conferences and very many workshops. I think this is a workshop, this is not a conference. And this type of workshops are actually quite many. Some of them I do not even know because I wasn't told, but I know they are going on. Some of them are going on within the university precincts. Some of them are going on in hotels nearby. And we had quite a number already last week. I attended actually 3 of them, and I'm not called to all of them. So that's good because it shows that as a university, we are very active and we are engaging not just internally, but we're also engaging partners across the world in the various disciplines that the university is involved in creating knowledge and translating this knowledge to action. So I would like to take the opportunity to, at least for those of you who are visitors, either online or here, please enjoy the week. After this workshop, take the opportunity to move around and see what else is being offered this week and participate. Apart from, of course, the workshops and the conferences, we have innovations which are being showcased outside the parking. And here in this tower, ground floor, the posters are still being set up. We have quite a number of, I think there will probably be more than 100 posters covering various areas across our 10 faculties. I'm encouraging you to show up there and engage the various researchers that are showing and discuss with them the work that they are doing. You may never know whom you are going to meet. That person you meet today or tomorrow may just lead to development of new ideas, leading into a project, leading into a solution that then will translate to improve our food systems, or at least to encourage government to make certain decisions that will improve certain things in this country and elsewhere. Now, I would like to make a few comments. I like to go more direct to issues that I see so that hopefully we can be able to connect them. Yesterday, we had the Belgian ambassador who talked about what they are doing at the embassy. I'm sure the embassy is considered where they are. I'm not sure where they are actually, but I believe it is within the city. And they are producing their vegetables, which they're using in the embassy, using vertical farming. I think it's called hydroponics. And we have a very big problem of food security in this country. Now, in this case, I'm talking about just having enough. We don't have enough. Some of us in some areas, we have enough, but there are many others in this country that do not have enough food. And yet, I believe we have enough land. Of course, we may talk about not having enough water in certain areas, but I would believe that there are solutions, very easy solutions that can be provided to some of those areas where there is no water, because there is underground water. And with that kind of technology, you can reduce the amount of water that you're going to use to produce enough food for your own use or for the community around you to use. But what is the problem? Why are we not doing it? I recall when I was a bit younger, we used to have agricultural extension officers. I don't know what happened to that kind of program, because then you would have these experienced people about food production who would go to communities and talk to people on how to do good farming. We don't have it anymore. So I'm hoping that this would be one of the platforms that would engage with people in government who are making these kind of decisions. They bring back those kind of infrastructure that was working with farmers, or even individual people. You may not necessarily, because I think for you to be a farmer, that means you are producing more than you need and you are selling. But even just for your own use at your home, using the little farm that you have, being able to produce enough food and produce it in a way that is safe, which brings me to the second point. I stayed in Kitengela for about 3 years. And before you get to Kitengela, you pass through a bridge. There's a river there. And just next to that bridge, there is the, I think the SGR passes above it here. So you see a lot of vegetables there, spinach and others. And in Kitengela, it doesn't rain quite often. And they're using the water that is running in that river to irrigate those vegetables. That water is heavily polluted. And I know particularly spinach sucks a lot of these pollutants. And that spinach goes to people's homes. I believe while I was there, I must have taken some of that as well. And that's just an example I'm giving. Now, the other day, we saw video clips. I mean, there was media coverage about cholera in Transmara. And they showed where they're fetching water from, and that's the same water they're using, for drinking and all that, and the water is very polluted. Now, all this is around food systems. So obviously, yes, you may produce enough, but how are you producing it? Yeah. Again, I'm hoping that, well, I believe that if we had the graduate extension officers and proper policies which are being implemented, then we would prevent this from taking place. But it is taking place. A lot of the food we're eating is not good. I do not know, but I tend to think that a lot of the cases we are having that's related to cancer is from this kind of food that we're eating. And if we don't deal with this, things are going to get worse. Because cancer does not come immediately. You eat bad food. When you eat the maize that is infected with aflatoxin, you don't become sick immediately. It takes time, isn't it? So we may not know the impact of this kind of food that we're eating until probably much later when it is too late. So I do think that your work here is actually very important. And if you are able to bring out all these issues and create platforms through which you can engage with the people who make decisions, who implement these kind of decisions in a way that keeps Kenyans safe, not just Kenyans, but everyone else, because what we do here, if we do it successfully, can be also translated to other jurisdictions. And also in a way that we are able to get enough food, not just enough for us, but enough to export, enough to sell. And that way we are also able to create wealth internally within our country. And we grow as a country. Thank you very much. Now it's my pleasure to invite the DVC Academic Affairs, represented by the Dean, Faculty of Agriculture, Professor Nyangito. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Let me extend our warm wishes to our Vice Chancellor, Professor Margaret Atchison, who has allowed us to have this workshop today here. And allow me to recognize our Director of Research, Professor Thomas Ochuku, our Director of Corporate Affairs, Mr. Rindi, distinguished guests from SIDA, SLU, that's the Swedish Agricultural University, partners present, some online, some here. Our faculty who have come, researchers who have come from various institutions here and online, students present, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. I feel privileged today to be here to represent the DVC Academic Affairs, Professor Ayub Gitau, to give his remarks. He would have wished to be here, but is away on official duty, and he requested me to be here. As you have heard, I am Professor Moses Nyangito. I'm the Dean, Faculty of Agriculture, and I'm very happy to learn and to have known that this program, the Kenya Science Translation Hub, although domiciled in the center of the university, that's in the Vice Chancellor's office, it actually emanates from my faculty because they lead the team, or the PI for that matter, Professor Cecilio Nyango, is a member of my faculty. So I feel very, very, very privileged. Before I go through the speech of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, allow me to make a few remarks of the speech, of the cover remark. Why is this program important? I note the key thrust of this program is to translate research into policy. That is, take science from journals, libraries, manuscripts, and so on, into action. And that's extremely important, particularly for countries like Kenya, which are developing countries. As researchers, we have been accused for a long time of doing a number of things, but little impact at the community level. And I see this program as a very important vehicle to help translate the knowledge that we have generated with our students into impact where it matters most. As the Director of Research was talking, and which touches me most because I'm the Dean of Agriculture, and being one of the foremost universities in this country, we are very, very challenged. When we are in a country where if you were to check the Global Hunger Index Report 2025, where we have about 37% of the Kenyan population being undernourished. 17% of our children are stunted. 4.5% of children are wasted. 2 million people are facing acute food insecurity. So actually we are in a crisis as a country. The Director of Research was trying to find out why do we have this kind of a situation? What's the problem? Is it that we don't have enough knowledge to change the situation? There is knowledge. There is a lot of work that has been done, particularly on matters agriculture and issues on food systems. But you come to realize much of that information in recent times, it is in journals, It is in the books. We have not taken it to the ground. That being the case, the other disadvantage we have had, Director, and as you mentioned rightfully, is the collapse of the extension system in the country, graduate extension. And I think this platform will help us to encourage our county governments to allocate funds to revive extension and employ extension officers who will be now the direct link between research and the users of scientific information, particularly in the agricultural sector, the farmers. I think that will be very, very important. If that's done, then we have this platform now translating much of the knowledge we have into policies, into packages that can support implementation of technology at production level. We should be able to change the country for the better. And if we do that, then we will become a model, not only for our country, but our East African region, and Africa in general. I've been privileged to have gone to school in Sweden when I was doing my PhD. And I was in a university in the south of Sweden, Linköping. I think it's either Linköping or Linköping. Correct. Now, while I was in that country, I learned something, that the founders of the Swedish Republic grappled with one issue at that time, that the land ownership system then was encouraging fragmentation. And they needed that they cannot be a developed country, produce food to scale in a fragmented landscape. One of the greatest challenges, again, we have in this country is actually a bad land policy. Our agricultural land is severely fragmented. We cannot produce to scale. Yet 80% of this country is just areas married. I wonder, why don't we just pass a policy and remove all the people from the high rainfall areas and settle them in all these dry areas, so that we have cities in the dry areas, then we have areas to produce food. Basically, what I'm trying to say, I believe, as we translate science into action, we translate knowledge into policy, as we guide policy through this program, that's another area which we need to take into account what needs to be done to change the way we own land and we use land in this country. I believe if we continue the way we are going, we will continue to make the situation worse. But I believe we can change somehow. If we don't change the system, maybe the dry areas, which are 80% of this country, which were largely under communal ownership, we strengthen that, we don't allow subdivision, then maybe much of those trust lands can be converted into large irrigation schemes for food production. Although it's capital intensive, but it can be done. So then, I want to say, not all is lost. When we have such a programs coming on board, it gives us hope that things will change. And with that, then I want to thank the organizers of this workshop, the PIS of this program, for having brought this important program to us, which we believe will play a critical role in changing science into action. With those of-cover remarks, kindly allow me now to go through the speech of the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic Affairs, Professor Ayub Gitau. It is a privilege to stand here today at the University of Nairobi, Nairobi's Research and Innovation Week, to mark the official launch of the Kenya Science Translation Hub. As DVC Academic Affairs, I view this hub not merely as a project, but as an institutionalization of our most critical academic mandate, moving beyond discovery to impact. Our challenge in Kenya, and indeed across sub-Saharan Africa, is not a lack of brilliant scientific research. It is the gap between the robust findings locked in our journals and the urgent needs of our farmers, communities, and policymakers. The complexity of our food systems, from climate shocks to market inefficiencies, demand solutions that are evidence-based and immediately actionable. The CETA-funded hub, built on the solid foundation of the Agrifose 2030 program, phase 1 and 2, is our structural answer. It positions the University of Nairobi, alongside our valued partners, as a regional center of excellence in science translation to inform policy and practice for efficient and sustainable food systems. Critically, the hub will train a new generation of policy-aware scientists through specialized courses in systematic review, science translation, and the legacy theory of change methodology. With this, we will be equipping our researchers not just to ask what, but to clearly articulate how scientific evidence leads directly to better policies and better practices that ensures food security and better livelihoods. That is science to impact. We celebrate the indispensable partnership with the Maseno University and the University of Embu, present here. This three-institutional cooperation is a powerful national model demonstrating that collective academic strength is the fastest route to achieving large-scale national development goals, like Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 2, zero hunger, through building strong ranks, that is, research, policy, and practice with strong feedback groups. The academic division that I oversight commits its full support to integrating this translation framework into our curricula and research strategy. This hub will ensure our academic outputs are not only excellent, but also fundamentally relevant to the socioeconomic transformation of our country. Therefore, you, our researchers present here, partners, and those who are online, I wish you a productive engagement in this workshop, and wish to thank our leader, that's our Vice Chancellor, who has guided our university to focus on impactful research. And I believe your work here will go a long way to strengthen the university in achieving this particular purpose of having impactful research. Thank you. And I hereby now declare this workshop officially open.
Thank you very much, Prof. Nyangito, our representative, the representative of our DVC Academic Affairs, but also present here today as a Dean of Agriculture. What I normally say is that all professions are important, but agriculture is the most important because all of us must eat. I'm sure in the next 1 hour, everybody will be asking whether there isn't anything to go to the stomach. I'd also like to recognize my chairman of department, Professor James Modhomi. Please, Prof, if you can wave to the crowd. And also the Associate Dean, Faculty of Arts, Professor Kenneth Ombongi. Please, the two of you wave. These are very important people in the room because even as we start transforming our research system or the way we do research within our university, it's not always at the Vice Chancellor's office that things happen. Things start happening from the researchers. Then the chairman of departments are our first level of support. Then we get to the dean, the directors, the DVC, and then finally the vice chancellor. So if my chair of department did not allow me some time off to do some writing for proposals, looking for funds, then I don't think it will have led to this hub getting established. I just want to highlight the key points we have gotten this morning from our director, research director, corporate affairs, and our DVCAA representative. What really has come out is the importance of having the results or the outputs that come from our various research projects and programs being taken out there and creating change, which is positive change, having an impact of what we do. Traditionally, as researchers, what we have done is to conduct our research, publish in credible journals. In fact, when you publish in Nature, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, it's something you become very proud of. And then after that, you get promoted from being just an assistant lecturer to a full professor. And as an individual, that feels very good. But now we've come to the realization that that's not enough. We need to bring some positive change. We need to create some impact. And where is this impact? At the policy level, when the policies are being formulated, can you contribute to that formulation of the policies? When the policies are being implemented, do you have a footprint? When the practitioners are doing what they know how to do best, have you contributed in ensuring that those practices are generating products that meet the demands of the consumers, not only the consumers of food, but consumers of those products? And the director of research and also our Professor Nyangito, you have brought up a key aspect of extension. That what has gone wrong with our extension systems such that the food that's produced is no longer food, but poison? Do we as researchers have a role to play? I know in our Faculty of Agriculture, there's a lot of work going into researching on the different contaminants of the soil, of the water. And we have actually demonstrated that most of the contaminants in the environment ends up in food that we consume. if we have that evidence, have we engaged the policymakers to start tackling the issue of the production practices that are not producing food for human consumption, but are producing poison that is leading to all these diseases that we are seeing? So I think, and we are going to hear it from my deputy hub leader, Dr. Nyaga, who is going to take us through the objectives of today's meeting. And I will come in and dive deeper into what we are exactly envisioning, the activities that we have, and all of us, we are going to develop a strategy on how we can now enhance the engagement between research, policy, and practice, and here policy extension is integrated. And how can we then start co-creating solutions to the problems that we are experiencing as a country, but not only in the country, in the region, and the world. So thank you very much. I would like to welcome Dr. Nyaga to take us through the objectives of today's event. Welcome.
So thank you very much, Cecilia. Our DVC represented by the Dean here, our directors, our colleagues from the University of Nairobi, MKU and elsewhere, Kabi, etc. Good morning. My name is Dr. Justin Nyaga, as I said during the introductions, and I also serve as the Deputy Hub Leader for the Agrifose Science Translation Hub, as Cecilia just explained. I work at the University of Embu as a senior lecturer there, but I also work there as a coordinator for the Center for Climate Change, Adaptation and Mitigation. Cecilia has given me some tasks to just explain why we are here. The Agrifose program has been running from 2018 or thereabout to date. One of the main objectives of the Agrifose, Agriculture for Food Security program, that the University of Nairobi, University of Embu, Maseno University, other universities have been part of, has been largely, besides supporting and doing other kind of programs and projects, Agrifose has focused on translating science to policy and practice. This has been done through a number of things that are including trainings on the theory of change methodology that Cecilia talked about, trainings on how to translate science to policy and practice. It's a training program that Agrifose has ran for the last quite a number of years, and also on how to do systematic reviews. But this has been done largely from Sweden. Our colleagues in Sweden, the universities that we work with, SLU and Linköping and other universities, Lund University. But now, from this year, Agrifose wants to bring this down to the universities that they have been working on in Africa. And that's why we have this hub that you're talking about, because we want to focus on how do we bring this down to the universities in Africa? How do we bring this down to the University of Nairobi? How can we have the University of Nairobi play a greater role in translating science to policy and practice? And the University of Nairobi now takes the lead to try and try and grow a hub, what we're calling a national translation hub, that can focus on making the science that we generate as universities in Kenya more able that can focus on translating that science that we generate to policy and practice, that we can be able to contribute more to policies that are developed in this country, and also that the people that we are working on the ground, the farmers, the smallholder farmers, can be able to benefit much faster from the research that we generate. And so the objective of this event is the two of them mainly. One of them is to just launch the hub, because we want to start this, and we are happy that we are joined by you. We are here physically and online to do this, because then we will be working with you. Because after launching the hub, that's one of the main objectives for today. The next thing that we want to do is to publicize it amongst our partners, our collaborators, our friends, our colleagues, our students, that this is an important thing that as researchers we need to engage in, that we need to worry more about the impact of our research that we generate from our laboratories and our departments. We need to worry more about how impactful is it? To what extent do our county governments make use of the science that we generate in our schools of agriculture, faculties of agriculture, to develop policies that they use to run the county departments of agriculture, because they're in charge of agriculture? So to what extent do they really use our science to develop those policies? Cecilia and I have worked on some of these things with the several county government of Embu, Kajiado, and Kiambu, and we realize that when these people, the MCAs, when they sit down to draft these policies, you will be surprised. They actually don't have any information at the fingertips. Like they don't have any literature, that their research departments and do not have access to material that they can use to actually draft these laws. So how can we help them? And this is why, one of the reasons why we really need to worry as researchers. What is the impact of it? Because as my colleagues have said, as our seniors have said, we are doing so much good research, yet we are not seeing, our farmers are still in problems. Our farmers are still doing the same old things. We're not making impact on our communities. And so the next objective of this workshop is to then initiate dialogues, initiate engagements with our partners. That's why we invited partners from, I think there's a partner from County Government of Kajiado. We have partners from different universities. And our aim moving forward is to start engaging with each other as partner universities. We have 3 universities that are partnering in this hub to start with. We'll not be the only one, but we just like the 3 of us who are starting with the University of Nairobi leading us. But moving forward, we want to start initiating engagements with research organizations like CABI, different departments within our universities, to try and find out how best can we help to translate the science that we are generating to policy and also practice amongst the stakeholders for which we do this research. May it be business people, may it be farmers, may it be other kind of people that can benefit from our research. And so what do we want to achieve in the end? 2 main things that we hope to achieve. One of them, we want to foster a sustained culture of integrating science translation within our research teams, within our curricula. We need to get engaged on and try to have discussions on how we can ingrain translation of science to policy and practice within our curricula. Is that possible? Is it something that we can do so that we become more impactful researchers? How can we make our research teams more impactful so that even as we grow our research teams, we know that we have a space for science translation within our teams, so that we worry more about that, more than just worrying about publications, because that's where our worry right now is, and of course innovations now coming up. We worry about, can we be able to innovate, but how can we be able to translate now this kind of knowledge that we generate to policy and practice. And finally, well, the second where we want to be, the second point on where we want to be, as a hub, as a national translation hub, we want to engage in co-creating knowledge with different stakeholders. If you're in agriculture, you need to engage policymakers in agriculture. We need to engage farmers, smallholder farmers, and the land who are the majority of in our country. We need to engage them on co-creating knowledge that can lead to evidence-based policies, especially in agriculture. We need to engage them on this so as to enhance productivity in our farms, and therefore create more sustainable and resilient and, more importantly, profitable food systems. So thank you very much. I'll let Cecilia proceed with the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daktari. I think he has now started the path of where we want to go. At this moment, we will all stand, take a group photo, because I know our director, our dean, who is also acting at DVCAA, have other engagements, but I will really request that you take a few more minutes after the group photo, if you are able to, sit in. Let's dive deeper into what this hub is all about. So for now, I think the communication and engagement team, please organize us for a group photo here, just at the front desk. Okay. Please stand, we take a photo, and then we will continue with the rest of the program, which will take actually like less than an hour. It's not a very long program. Thank you very much. I don't know whether this is high enough for me to use. Okay. Yeah, so now we have had the thinking of our leadership and our objective today. I'm sorry, our partners online, we couldn't take a group photo with you, but we will see how we can integrate each one of you into our group photo, because then it's great evidence that this is the day that the hub activities started with the blessing of our leadership. We also have blessings from our two universities, that's Embu and Maseno universities, who are our first partners. But as Justin said, this is only the beginning. We are going to bring on board all universities in Kenya so that each of the researchers in those universities can start thinking about the importance of the impact their research work needs to have within society. So I have a few slides prepared, and those are the ones I am going to go through just shortly to give you some idea behind why the hub, what it is, how we want to move forward, and what's really the end game. I like managing my slides, but today, because we have the online collaborators and partners, I am told that I have to say next. And that feels very nice, because then you have somebody doing the work so that you just do the job of talking. I'm being managed, as the director is saying. So really, as Justin said, when Agrifose started, it's because the Agrifose One, which we are about 10 years now old, and we're very pleased that we were part of that process when the Agrifose 2030 program was starting. There was a realization that something is not right, because a lot of money was being put into research and is still being put into research, but we don't see impact. Then the question was, why? And it was realized that actually there's some disconnect. We are not connected. Where the research is happening and where it's supposed to get problems solved, they were not linked, and hence the broken bridge. So why was this then, or why does this continue being to be the case? It is because as researchers, when we are trained up to PhD level and start doing the research, nobody really equips us with the skills and knowledge on how to translate what we have into action so that we can see impact. And although there's a solution to this, that pathway we don't really have. If we go to the next slide, we will then see how, when we conduct research, we are very enthusiastic about the results. Of course, the language that we use is the language that is understood among colleagues. If I'm talking about this physiological development of plants, or somebody is talking about the development of diseases in the human body or animal, or the issues that go on in the soil, we normally use the language that our fellows understand. And yet, when we are writing proposals and getting funding, be it from our government or from the donors, we are writing based on an existing problem that we want to solve in the society. And for sure, we conduct the research, we come up with solutions or interventions for those problems. However, this remains within our circles. Because when you go to the farmer or to the policymakers, and we are using all these scientific terms, that language nobody understands. Because for them, for the practice, for the practitioners, for the policymakers, what they want is information or interventions that can solve the problems that exist in society. But for the longest, we've just been talking to ourselves or even engaging, but not engaging in a useful manner. We take interventions to communities, but then they have no touch with what we are taking there. So in the hub, we strongly believe, and with the experience that we've had for the last 10 years, that now we are ready to start using the scientific evidence or the interventions or the knowledge and skills that are generated within our institutions to bring about positive change, to start having policies that are informed by research, to start implementing practices, not only in agriculture, by the way.
Papa, congrats, bwana. Asante sana. See, I've already been per site ya today.
There's something
Doctor.
going on
Information.
with the
Hata kama
system.
unataka utaongeza tu. Nitafuta
But
nikutumie.
currently ukiangalia utapata updates.
Sasa nikutumie more information.
Tuma kama sasa unaona kama sasa kitu tutafanya
Sasa,
kuna venye una upload nini
Kwa CV.
Google Scholar yako the link your
Ziko,
CV
my Google Scholar is
Bas.
up to date.
then you
somewhere
can send them to me.
interfered with our transmission. That's also allowed, because then it allowed me to pause and swallow some saliva. So yeah, so within the hub and the experience that we have gained over those years, we think that we can now become more proactive in using our outputs from research to create impact, to support policy formulation, to support policy implementation, to support implementation of practices that prevent production of poison, but and lead to production of food and have sustainable food systems. So then, what does that mean? We must co-create. We must work together. We must start from what is really the issue and what then is needed to solve a problem or to deal with that issue. Then we move back, because we must then know, how do we get there? How do we get to this solution? We move back and say, how do we do it? And we cannot do it just as scientists, but everybody must be brought on board. And this is the role of this hub, where each one of us, be it from other research organizations, from government, from industry and research, we must come together, co-create. And you know, when we are co-creating, we are not going to use those very scientific terms. If we are seated on the same table with the farmers, with the policymakers, we are going to be forced to use a language that's understood by everybody. So within the hub, one of the things that we are going to do is to train our researchers on how to communicate effectively. How can I speak to my member of parliament? How can I speak to the governor about the research outputs that I have obtained that are now ready to be used? How can we again stop going all the way to outputs without involving the real guys who need to use? How can we start developing those interventions by bringing on board the policymaker, saying, hey, is this really your problem? Is this what you want us to address? Okay, if the answer is yes, let's work together to develop the solutions. And so in the hub, really, we want to move beyond publication and promotion to creating that impact, having our research outputs becoming part of the policies, the implementation process, and the practices that are being implemented are actually guided by the evidence that we have generated in our research programs. I feel like this is a bit low, so I keep on bending. Yeah, so then in the hub, there are two activities. One, there is capacity building of researchers on science translation. The other training that will be offered is on coming up with the theory of change. How do you envision the change that you want to create? What steps then do you follow until that change is realized? And I'm sure some of us in research have seen that when we are writing proposals, there's that section where you're supposed to write your theory of change. And sometimes it's indeed difficult to write that section. So within the hub, we have developed capacities that will work with us to be able to gain the knowledge and skills on how to write a theory of change. And why is that important? Because this methodology has been proven to actually enable all partners to work together for a common outcome. So it guides you on the steps to follow, who you need to work with, what are their needs, aspirations, their strengths, their weaknesses. How can we then bring all that together to realize what we have set out to do? The other aspect that we are going to do as a hub is to train our researchers on how to use to dig the evidence that was generated some time back, is sitting in shelves, and yet it's what is required to inform policy, because there's evidence that has been generated. It's in thesis form, it's in publications, it's in all manner of formats, but it's not in a format that can be used by our policymakers, our farmers, our transporters, our processors, and all those practitioners through a course called systematic reviewing. Then we'll also have capacity building on science translation. How do you break down those products that, I mean, that very difficult language that you have used in your scientific write-up, bring it to a language that everybody else can understand? And that's why we have our corporate division supporting us in terms of communication and engagement, because we have not been trained on that. But we are seeing this hub as an avenue where now the scientists can be trained on how to break down what you have in those very complicated terminologies and language by either using graphics, drawings, pictures, song and dance, so that it can be easily absorbed and used by our various target audiences who are not researchers. That's in terms of the trainings, capacity building. But also within the hub, we have a research project that we are going to use to demonstrate that you can, after undergoing those trainings, you can now use that in a very practical manner to engage with policymakers and with the practitioners. So it's not only the capacity building in terms of courses, that's important, but again, we have a project now to use as a flagship project that will integrate the knowledge and skills gained by the researchers to be able to get to the impact of action. And that research project is being led by Maseno University, but we are partners. So Samuel is our PI, and we support him in the project. Then the hub becomes the place where now everybody else meets and starts the discussions. Can we move to the next one? So about the hub. Our hub is only one out of 3 that have been started in sub-Saharan Africa. And where we have started this is in Chambogo University in Uganda. We have the Kenya one at the University of Nairobi and Chinoi in Zimbabwe. Why these 3? These have been the partners that were collaborating in the Agrifose program that we've talked about, that has been running for 3 years, for almost 10 years. And when CEDA funded this program about 10 years ago, most of the activities were being implemented from Sweden, SLU, the Swedish Agricultural University. But now we are transferring all those responsibilities to the region because we think we have grown, we can walk, but not so much on our own. So what has happened is that they have just remained with a very small role of holding our hands as we walk forward and lead in the science translation area. So you will see that there's the Swedish support team, really a small group. Elizabeth is our director, she's leading, and a few others, and also Veronica, Sophia, and others from Sweden, just taking a very, very small role. Most of the work has to be led and done at the hub level, that's in Kenya, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. And then we are thinking that at the moment we are starting with just 3 universities per hub. But as we move forward, we want to bring in all the other universities within the 3 countries. And then we'll move from that and we bring in our partners from the region. While we do that, there's a lot of interaction and collaboration between the 3 hubs as we get the support from Sweden. So what we are really seeing is that at the end, we have this critical mass of scientists who are really well trained on science translation, on engagement, collaboration, dissemination, and creating impact. But also in our curriculum, we have this integrated so that we are not ending with the funding. We are seeing a scenario whereby the universities integrate this into their systems and it becomes our way of doing business, our way of doing training, our way of doing research, such that we have that very strong collaboration between the universities, the policymakers, and the practitioners, such that we are researching on issues that are affecting society, and all of us are engaged in developing the interventions. So then I move now down to the hub, our hub, where University of Nairobi, this is where the hub is seated, supported strongly by Embu and Maseno. But for the longest again, and I'm sure Professor Nyangito, you can agree with me, that we have not really engaged our corporate division in terms of communication and engagement of our partners. So in the hub, they form a central role. They're the ones who invited the partners to this meeting. And from now going forward, the communications, the engagements are going to be coming from this division of the university. Why? because they have the right tools. They have the right language in terms of engagement. They have the networks. And I think that's where we have failed as researchers, when we work alone and we forget that there are other very useful departments within the university, then you end up just being alone and no one really knows what you're doing. But with our communication and engagement, I think we'll be able to be out there to really say, hey, this is what we are doing. Who is out there to work with us? Who is out there to join our hands, to join hands with us so that we bring a difference in society? So that's the organization of our hub. If we move to the next slide, then what do we really want to do? We want to move from individual thinking and thinking and actualization of research work to co-creation. We want to go to the people who really need the evidence that we want to generate, who need the interventions. This is the Research and Innovation Week at the university, and I attended the opening ceremony yesterday. The question that most of the presenters were asking was that we know University of Nairobi, Embu, Maseno, and all these universities in the region are doing great research. The question was, where's the impact? Can we say that what University of Nairobi has done in terms of research and innovation has greatly impacted society? This is the question we have to ask. And now we need to move and really put this as our number one focus, creating impact, getting to where the action is. And where the action is are all the practitioners, farmers, transporters, processors, and all consumers, but also policy. It has always been said that Kenya has beautiful policies. What's wrong with the implementation? As researchers, do we have a role? Do we have a policy department at the University of Nairobi, for example? Do we have it? If we do, what kind of research is being done? So do we need to work more with institutions like KIPRA? Do we need to work more with county governments? Why are we always having insufficient food, for example? Why do we have contaminated food being consumed in the region, not just in Kenya, in the region? And yet, we are able to export to international markets that have stringent requirements, high standards. What's our problem? Can we use the hub to start co-creating interventions that respond to those questions? And we need to start communicating properly to those that need our research outputs to make a difference. We want to increase yields. We want to reduce malnutrition. We want to reduce disease incidences within the country. We want to have good roads. We want to have good governance systems. And we have done research. We want to conduct profitable businesses. We want to have sustainable systems in our different engagements. Where's the research? So this is what we are seeing as researchers in the hub, that we want to start making that difference. So let's move to the next slide, please. If that must happen, capacity building is key in the different knowledge and skills required. And to have this continuous capacity building, our curricula must change and integrate those that we think, the courses that we think are relevant and that are going to create impact, that will give knowledge and skills to our trainees or graduates, such that when they go out into the field or to the world, then they're able to create impact. So capacity building must form our top priority. And then after that, what do we need to do? It's not just about investing in capacity building. And actually, my main question to our DVCAA, represented by the dean, now we have the funding through CEDA, and we will be training researchers and our graduate students for the period of 1.5 years. After this after the project, the small funding gets, runs out. Will the universities be ready to support those trainings? Because it's not extremely expensive. And if you see the budget that we will use to run the courses and even conduct the research, it's not something that our institutions or our government cannot support. So the ask from our end will be, will the university be ready to take over in terms of resource support to the hub so that this can be sustained? And I guess the answer is yes, because we have had a really good discussion with our Vice Chancellor, with the DVCs and the Dean, and we are trying to see how can we then integrate this not only at the Faculty of Agriculture where we are starting, but everybody else being brought in. And so when we do that kind of capacity building, then we look at the courses. We are starting with 3 courses, but there are many other courses that might be required, and this will be department or faculty or school dependent, so that we start asking ourselves, what courses are really relevant? What can we bring on board, integrate into our curricula, even if not full courses, but pieces of the information required to get to our courses to enhance the knowledge and skills in science translation, but also in engagement with our partners. So next. Yeah, so this is just the official launch. And what we are saying is that the link is not just fixing that bridge. We might want to create a new road that will take us there. If we think it's too expensive to fix the bridge, let's create the road and we'll get there. And so once we institutionalize the new mandates, and I'm happy that our dean representing the DVC has said this institutionalization, that's quite a mouthful, of what we have started at the hub is really going to lead to the academic excellence. And so once that happens and we are working with government, the policymakers, the extension gets strengthened. Because again, remember, for extension to work effectively, they need information. They need new knowledge. How often do our extension service providers get retooled, get new information, even as we get new challenges? I think that's where researchers have a role to play. And then there must be that very close interaction with the extension service providers who are actually in government, and both county and national. And we engage, we work closely. Then there's that feedback loop where we are always and constantly addressing the issues that are being faced at practice or policy. And once that happens, then for sure we'll have sustainable food systems, but they're not only sustainable, they're quite efficient. So for me, this hub cannot succeed alone with the 3 partners without your support. It's the chairman of department, it's the deans of faculties and schools, it's our directors of different divisions, it's our DVCs, it's everybody, it's government, it's our partners from outside. We must all join hands so that we can realize this vision that has been started today. So in doing so, we must co-create the knowledge, we must co-create the interventions required. Next. So then, to all our stakeholders here today, this is a resource for all of us to use. So that, because wherever you're coming from, be it government, be it other partners like other international research organizations, be it a producer or a practitioner, there is an outcome that you want to realize. And that outcome is linked to the interconnectedness that we have of the three arms, the research, the policy, and the practice. Because the challenges being faced out there need solutions, and those solutions need to be generated. Research gives us that space, but we must work together to develop the interventions. And with our collective mission, that's in Kenya and the region, we must really strive to embed science in all our decision-making processes. Whether we are cooking food or picking food from the market, selling, producing, or developing systems that can enable sustainability of our food systems or any other systems that we are working in, our hospital systems, our banking systems, our business systems. This must be supported by science. They must be integrated. But we should never imagine that science is only through the jargon, that's the difficult terms, the difficult processes. It can be broken down to language that can be understood by all. So as we conclude this launch then, let's live here with a really shared sense of urgency. That's my call today. It must be urgent to all of us that we need to start doing things differently. So that work has started now, and I will request our Professor Nyangito to communicate to the DVC, but also to the Vice Chancellor, that for the next 1.5 years, we have enough resources to start all this that we are talking about today, but then we must look beyond the funding period. And as a Dean of Faculty, I think you are at a good position to start. I don't know how many curricula are due for review, that we can already start integrating this into our academic programs. We are lucky that within the 10-year period, we were able to migrate some courses to the University of Nairobi, but this also needs to happen with our partner universities, Embu and Maseno, but also other universities within the country. And now I think this is the end, if I'm not wrong. Esther, what do you have for me? Next. Yeah.